talking about
All right.
gymnastics as a, you thought you'd be
All
a
right,
gymnast.
Peanut Gallery. Okay, Peanut Gallery. So we're going to start with asking just what was it like to go out to breakfast?
To go out to breakfast.
To go out to breakfast.
What
Do
the hell?
you remember what things cost, what it was like?
Oh my gosh.
Do it.
Well, you couldn't go out to breakfast today the way we did. We wouldn't go out for breakfast because we would make breakfast at home. And going out for meals was a no-no. I mean, that was during the Depression.
Right.
People didn't have enough to eat. And so you certainly couldn't spend money on food. That would have been terrible.
So going out to breakfast just didn't happen.
No. Not in our time.
Would you get sent out to the store to maybe pick something up for breakfast?
Well, we would do our weekly shopping or whatever it was, and we would eat from that.
And what would you eat for breakfast?
Well, I always was a cereal eater, and I still like to eat cereal. But I take all kinds of cereal and mix them together.
Cold cereal.
Yeah.
Nice.
I do the same thing with ice cream. I make all different flavors and put them all together. In fact, I mix up everything.
So we have someone here. We're not. The camera can't see them, but I'm supposed to read that.
Gymnastics.
Gymnastics. We're on breakfast actually right now, but we'll get to that. Thank you. So what about the milk?
What about the milk?
I don't know.
I would drink milk.
How did you get the milk? Was it delivered to your door?
Yes. As a matter of fact, in those days, the milkman would deliver the milk in the wintertime when it was very cold. The milk had the cream on the top, and the cream would push above the top, you know, the cardboard top, and the cream, the cold would push the cream up, and everybody would run to get that. That was like ice cream.
That was the best part.
Yeah, that was the best part. And we used to have a race for that. And that was, that left the rest of the milk like skim milk.
Right.
But we didn't care. We just liked that first part. That was good.
What about your parents with the coffee? Wouldn't they want that for their coffee? Or were they drinkers?
You know, my parents weren't the coffee drinkers, but that house, and I never liked coffee. I still don't. But the house just smelled so great from coffee. They would percolate the coffee, and it was just a wonderful odor in the house. I love the odor of coffee, but I can't stand the taste of it. And that's the way it was. So, I don't think my parents were very much coffee drinkers.
But you would smell it, so maybe someone was. Maybe your brothers or...
I had one brother. One brother and 7 sisters. Wow.
Was some of your sisters, someone was percolating the coffee.
Yes. There was always somebody perking coffee.
What are some of your favorite memories of growing up with so many siblings?
Well, the thing was, the older children, the older girls, there were 2 girls and then a boy, and then the rest were girls. And I felt that, and it's true, the older ones got the best of the deal because times weren't so bad in the beginning. But then as the years went on, and there got to be a bigger family, and it was a lot less beneficial to the younger ones. And of course, I was third from the youngest, so that meant I didn't get as much. And didn't have as much consideration because there weren't that many facilities. But that's the way it was. The younger ones got the worst of the deal.
Well, you must remember some of the Roaring '20s, though, or at least little bits of it. Yeah.
The Roaring '20s, you know. And my mother had a wardrobe of beautiful gowns that were typical of that era. And yet, she didn't go any place when I was alive, you know, by the time I came along. I mean, that was 6 kids already, and she didn't have the strength, I guess, to go out.
Or the want.
For the one. That's right. That's true. But she did have a wonderful wardrobe, so I knew that there was something before.
Would you and your sisters dress up in her gowns?
Oh, sure. What girl doesn't dress up? I keep thinking of Hope
Yeah.
and how she was. Oh my God. So that's what we did. We dressed up and and one of the things I do remember growing up, my older sisters would give parties, and they would have lots of parties, and they would have such crowds that everybody would put their coats upstairs in one of the bedrooms, you know. And I would always call my friend Laura, who was my very dearest friend when I was growing up. And she and I would go upstairs and we would hide under the bed and wait to see if anybody would come around and do anything.
Little peeping toms.
And another thing, everybody smoked then. It was the style, you know. There were no thoughts of harmful cigarettes. So Laura and I would go around and pick the large butts in the ashtrays, and we would smoke them.
At what
How
age
old
is
were
this? Yeah, how old were you?
About 9,
Oh my
9
God.
or 10. And somebody must have found out about it, and they told our teacher. And when I was in school, the teacher called me up to her desk and said, I understand that you were smoking. I said, me smoking? No, they were candy cigarettes.
Which they had.
So they had sometimes. And I thought of it immediately. And so when she dismissed me, I went back to my seat, and on my way back, I passed Laura, and I knew that Laura was going to get called up next. So I said, candy cigarettes, as I passed her. And she got away with it too.
You got your stories straight.
That's That was the one thing I remembered about school.
Well, what about after school? What would you do?
Well,
Self-sex.
one of the things I remember after school was we had a couple African American, well, black people, colored people. Helen Penny was one's name, and the other one, I don't remember what her name was, but they would wait for me after school because my father was a furrier, and I had a fur coat, and they would just chase me after school and pluck the feathers out of the coat, and they would call me chicken feathers. And honestly, they had scared the hell out of me. And I finally had to stay home from school and bring my mother to school to talk to the principal about it, to report them. I don't remember what happened, but it was a really big deal.
Did it stop? Do you remember if it stopped them
Yeah.
from doing that?
Well, it had to stop. They were being watched.
Yeah. That helps.
But would you hang out with the other kids after school or go home?
Oh, I would go home. I never hung around school afterwards.
Except when you did gymnastics, wasn't that an after-school activity?
What was that?
When you did gymnastics, wasn't that an after-school activity at
Really wants to know
Houston?
about that gymnastics.
Basket?
Gymnastics.
Oh, gymnastics. Oh, yeah.
That was at Houston.
Right. I would stay after school to practice in the gym.
Right.
And you got so into gymnastics, you said you thought you might be in the Olympics.
Yeah, right.
So you were training quite a lot?
Yeah. I loved doing the gymnastics. That wasn't like work to me.
Yeah.
It was just fun. So what are you doing there?
I'm taking still pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not recording.
I think
This
so.
is
I think it
we're,
still is.
we're being recorded
This is
by
recorded.
a black screen. You just can't see it. Yeah. How long did you do gymnastics? Were you still into it in high school, or was that kind of?
Oh no, I was in high school.
Oh yeah.
Very seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you start in junior high school? You started in Houston, went over to high school, and stayed in gymnastics. Were you part of a team? Did they have teams?
Well, we had teams, and I was on whatever team there was. I don't remember, but it was also individually that I was practicing.
And winning ribbons and
Yeah.
trophies.
I still have them.
Do you?
You do.
I do. I have a box with the ribbons and the ones that... So you guys will have to worry about that.
That's right. We'll worry about all of it.
What was your favorite activity?
In gym, I think I liked, well, it was kind of a toss-up. I liked the horse and the rings, and I remember the ropes. The first time I tried, I climbed all the way up to the top and down again.
Nice.
Wow. Good arm strength.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really had a lot of strength. I'm wondering what happened to it all.
Well, it goes away.
She's still pretty strong.
That's true. You are pretty strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, ask Marty and Kay, and they don't think so.
No, Kay just said you're pretty strong.
Um,
You know, just to be, you know, getting yourself over the little
all right.
thing,
Yeah, that's
the
what
threshold.
I said. I mean, with this injury that you have shown how much upper body strength you have because you've been able to lift yourself in and out of the chair. You know, that's what's made you more independent.
Okay. Okay, I'll take that credit.
There you go.
Yeah, take that credit. Did it stop?
I think it's still, yeah.
It's still
Like,
recording.
I think with
So-
the green
It
light.
had gone on sleep.
Oh.
So any boyfriends in high school or?
You know, I keep thinking of this name, Perry Weiss. It comes to my mind,
Oh.
and he was a very popular guy. I mean, all the gals were kind of after him. And I don't know that he gave me any special attention, but that's a name I remember
That was in high school?
in high school.
In high school, huh?
Yeah.
I'll have to
Yeah.
look him up, see if he's still around.
Very wise.
If he's still around, he'll be 100.
Oh, yeah, it'd be 100.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you know, I went to my high school reunions for years, and I have full pictures of all the attendants at the reunion. And the first one, there were 38 of us. And then the next one, it was, I think I must have pictures of about 5 high school reunions. And by the 5th one, there were 8 people.
Oh,
8. It started out with 38. And, but I was still there.
wasn't the founder of Comcast your high school, in your high school?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Now tell me I'm going to forget his name.
I can't help
Roberts.
Oh yeah, Ralph Roberts.
you. Ralph Roberts.
And he was pretty good looking, you know. He was a very popular guy.
Probably even more popular once he developed Comcast.
Well, that wasn't until way after. Way after that. I was shocked when I heard that he was the founder of it.
Was he at the reunions?
No, he never came.
No. Too busy.
Busy making $1 bazillion.
Maybe he was too busy making money.
So speaking of making money, did you have a first job in high school or after that stands out?
I don't think I did work when I was in high school. No.
Well, you were in junior high when the Depression hit, 34. When did the Depression hit? 32?
29.
29. So you were elementary through junior high. And then high school, wasn't that World War II?
No, that was Depression.
I graduated, no.
Depression
I
pretty much
graduated
went
high
till-
school
Right.
in 38.
Okay. And then you went to work
Then I was
for the
dancing.
War Department. You went to work for the War Department.
Yeah.
What about dancing?
And well, after that,
Oh,
I
after.
After.
went to dance.
Yeah, so maybe was your first job with the War Department, maybe your first real job?
I guess maybe I have to say that was because it was in 42.
So you were 22.
Yeah. My first job I don't know whether this is my first, but I was with the War Department. First was the Air Force, and then was the Signal Corps. And I had a job where the government supplied ships, trucks, and tanks to different
The different parts of the war
Different parts of
machine,
the War Department.
Army, Navy.
and they would give them highly secretive equipment to install in those vehicles.
Hmm.
And my job was to go to these factories where they were installing this equipment in the trucks or ships or whatever. And I was a pipsqueak of 22, and they were rolling out the red carpet for me because I was representing the government and the War Department to inspect their records to make sure that everything was okay. And they had to kowtow to me. And that was one of my first jobs.
And you were responsible for making sure that everything that was supposed to arrive at those places arrived. That was your job.
That's a lot of responsibility for a 22-year-old.
Yeah. Well, you know, wartime made a lot of opportunities for people. They had no choice. The men were in the army, and they had to rely on us poor women.
Did you have schooling beyond high school?
I was out of high school.
Did you go to college at all?
No. I went to college when I was 58. I got my college degree at 58.
And only because you had to for your job.
Yeah. Because, you know, I was in a job which was supervisory, and when the inspectors came, they wanted to know what my credentials were, and I didn't have a degree, but I had lots of experience. So my boss, Naomi Dank, I have to show you.
I have that. I seen that article.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Yeah. She told me I had to get a degree. So at the time, they were having a lot of programs that were
Experiential. You could get your degree on experience
Right.
versus
it was
being in college.
continuing education for women, and some colleges offered a degree for so many hours of attending classes, and you had to write a record of what your
Biography.
activities were. You wrote what's called a past learning petition, and I have a copy of it here. That if anybody wanted to read it, it's pretty boring, but I mean, it just explains everything that I've done through the years, and I had to put supporting evidence in there for all the things, like some of the jobs that were recommended to me, and all of it. It's very, very good. I remember, as usual, I was writing this the night before it was due, and Eric was over. We were in this room. I was writing it in longhand and throwing the sheets over to him, and he was typing them up in a typewriter. And that's how I got it done. And this was the past learning petition, and on the basis of what that was, I had a meeting with the evaluators, and I was allowed to bring an advocate, and so I had Naomi was the advocate for me, and she was supposed to remind me of certain things that I wanted to bring up.
And Naomi was your boss at the time.
Yeah.
And this
my
was
boss.
1978 now, because you were
Yeah.
jumping forward.
Yeah.
So what job were you working at that point?
I was a recreation therapist, and I was the head of the department, and I had any number of people. When I worked for the War Department, I was supervising like about 10 typists, and so much.
I think you might have messed it up, Dad.
It's
Oh, help.
Did you go to sleep?
Well,
sleep.
not quite. It got confused because it got touched. I have no idea. Is
The
it
green
this?
light's still on.
So
Sorry.
it might still be.
Continue. So you had 10 typists
light.
working under you.
yeah,
Whew.
Oh, let's make sure.
and you know, and that job.
Is
We
that
never
what it
were
was?
allowed
Okay.
to take vacations. Never had no vacation at all. No Christmas, no New Year's, no
To sign.
nothing. We just worked straight through
Oh.
because it was wartime.
Maybe it was
Yeah.
gone the whole time.
And it was just something that was our whole life, you know. We didn't have time for anything else. We just worked straight along, and I worked so hard and so much that my eyes were failing. And one day, I mean, I don't know what happened, but it was like it was almost blind. And I had to leave work and go to the doctor right away. And I was prescribed glasses. And I never thought I would ever stop wearing those glasses.
Huh.
But they said, the doctor told me if I wore them steadily for a year, that I would be able to do without them. And then ever since then, I've been wearing contact lenses, or then beyond that, I had cataracts removed, and then I had implants. So, and now my eyes are going bad again.
So the doctor didn't tell you the truth.
No, he didn't tell me the truth. So that was it.
So, Mom, where were you working when you went for your PLP,
What's a PLP?
the prior life
Oh.
petition? Past learning.
Where were you working when you had to get your PLP?
My PLP. I was working at Montgomery County Emergency Service. That was in Norristown, on the grounds of Norristown State Hospital.
And that was a new facility, MCES, that Naomi created, right?
Actually, it was a building on the grounds of Norristown Hospital. And we made that into Montgomery County Emergency. And it was a very excellent program. And it got lots of awards for efficiency. It was really a good program.
So Naomi brought the program all together, and she brought you in on the ground floor to do your job as part of the whole program, right?
Yeah, that started in 1974, and it just grew from there. It was very popular, Now I understand that it's falling apart.
I heard they closed the program.
They didn't.
No? I thought that there was someone in Big Sur who lives in Norristown and was visiting, and she seemed to think that whole thing was closed,
Really?
but maybe not.
Well, I thought it was when I heard that it had really failed so much. A lot of people left and everything. But then I recently had Nancy Zosa, and she explained to me that it wasn't everybody who left, but most of the people. And it has fallen apart, so it no longer has. The medical director was probably fired. She's not there anymore. And I don't know what else.
But you worked there until you started there in '74, and you worked there until
Oh, yeah.
you
I
were
worked there.
90
Yeah,
years old.
I was.
So you worked there for over 50
And the only
years.
reason I left was
Seemed.
that when I had that fall, I was on my way to a train at 30th Street Station, and they were doing some rebuilding, and they left some tools and stuff on the sidewalk. And I was rushing to catch a train and didn't see this. I lifted my eyes to see if I would make the light to go over, and if I had time to make the train. And I tripped over some kind of stuff that they had laying out there. And a guy who was nearby said, "Do you want me to call the ambulance?" So I couldn't move. So I had to. And I wound up at 10 in the accident ward, and it was a whole big thing. And that was the last that I worked. I was never officially let off. I still have my keys.
Sounds like my school.
I still have my keys.
Well, you can start tomorrow.
And nobody has ever called me.
They owe you a severance. Yeah.
It's weird. So that's how this place kind of fell apart.
Right.